Hi, this is Mr. Movie Mountain from YouTube, and you're watching Harold and the Purple Crayon. Before we get into the review, I have a goal of reaching 50 subscribers before the end of September, and so if you would consider subscribing, it would really mean a lot. There will be some spoilers in this review, and with that, let's get into it. Let's start by talking about the book that this movie is based on. Crockett Johnson's 1995 classic stars 4-year-old Harold, who is exploring the world using his purple crayon, which can turn his drawings into real life. It's a really fun story about the power of imagination, and one that I'm sure inspired countless kids to dream big and be creative. In the movie, though, they decided to age Harold up so he could be played by Zachary Levi, which was a bad choice. I think it would have worked better if Harold was played by an actual kid or maybe even a teenager, but having him as a man in his 40s was kind of weird and creepy at times. It started off in a really fun, cool 2D world, and honestly, I think the movie would have worked better for me if it had just stayed there in the animated world. Next, let's talk about a few themes that the movie introduces, and they're interesting, but then it does absolutely nothing with them. In the beginning of the movie, Harold is in a 2D world where he's in a constant dialogue with the old man, who is his creator. And one day when the man goes silent, the old man goes silent, he travels to the real world to try and find him and figure out what's going on. So immediately I'm kind of like, interesting. He's exploring like themes of having a creator and what it's like to communicate with him and what happens when you don't feel that communication. Maybe this is going to go somewhere interesting or insightful, but instead the story did nothing with that point at all. Another example of this in the movie is when Harold runs into the other protagonists of the film, recently widowed Terry, played by Zooey Deschanel, and her young son, Mel. They have a few conversations throughout the movie about Mel's deceased dad. And later on in the film, we find out that the creator, the old man that Harold has been searching for, is dead. And here I'm thinking, okay, they're going to use this for some sort of messaging around using your imagination, and drawing and art is a way to process grief. And it would be, touching on this mature theme for kids that could be a really positive message. And instead nothing. There was nothing like that. It just kind of happened. Harold discovers that his creator is dead and then feels sad for a while and then moves on. Just nothing. In the end, I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to take away from this movie and left more confused than anything else. Next, let's talk about the rest of the cast. So in Harold's 2D imaginary world, he's best friends with a porcupine and a moose who get turned into humans when they go through the portal into the real world. First, the human form of the porcupine is given this crazy purple spiky hair, and the character played by Tanya Reynolds just comes off as really cringe sometimes. I can tell that she's trying hard, and so maybe this is a result of bad writing rather than her performance, but it just was not fun to watch. Second, the moose character, played by Lil Rel Howery, unlike the porcupine, didn't have any visual styling to make him seem similar to the moose character. I guess he had a sweater that had a moose icon on it, but this consistency in costumes I thought was super lame. His performance was okay, but ultimately forgettable. The main villain of the movie / creepy librarian is played by Jermaine Clement, and this is the one character that I actually kind of liked a little bit. he was this kind of funny guy that was trying to make his dumb fantasy novels into reality. But again, the character was pretty flat, and even though I love Jermaine and probably have some bias towards him, positive bias towards him, he couldn't save this movie. Finally, Zooey Deschanel as Terry felt like she wasn't even trying at all, which to me was a huge letdown because I actually like Zooey Deschanel as an actor. There's even a B plot to the movie of getting her to play the piano for the first time since her husband has died. And when they were getting to that emotional climax of getting her to play the piano again for the first time, I was like, great, she's gonna play the piano and sing because her singing voice is beautiful and this will be fun. But instead, she played the piano for about 30 seconds and then no singing at all. And that part of the movie didn't even really make sense and was pretty devoid of emotion. For something as tumultuous as going back to a cherished hobby that you haven't been able to engage with since the death of a loved one, it just had no feeling at all. And Harold had to ask her like twice to play the piano, and then she finally caved and just played it, and everyone was happy and moved on. Super lame. This movie sucks. To finish, let's look at a few Letterboxd reviews and wrap things up. First is this review by fellow YouTuber Luke Core, and he says, "This is part of Zachary Levi's mental breakdown after Shazam 2 flopped. And as I previously discussed, Zachary Levi's performance is weird and unhinged, so I totally agree with this." Next, Elizabeth has this to say about the movie. My bi-monthly reminder that I don't need to watch everything that's on the cinema just because I have a Cineworld membership. Now, I can strongly relate to this feeling. I like to go to the movies often. I have a membership, and I'm usually pretty forgiving of movies targeted at children. I don't expect the plot to be something amazing, but as long as I leave the theater feeling better than when I went in, I count it as a success. In the case of Harold and the Purple Crayon, I left the theater questioning my life's choices as I was walking to my car. So, not great. Finally, Cam Madak says, "It's times like this where I wish crayons had erasers so I can erase this film out of existence." And same, Cam, same. With that, Harold and the Purple Crayon gets half a star out of 5 on the mountain meter. And if it wasn't for Jermaine, it probably would have been a 0. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.